Welcome to Ploughman's Backyard. My name is Kendra and welcome to another 16 egg Amazon incubator video. We have actually had a couple people asking about the setup once you purchase your incubator. Well, we've purchased another 16 Amazon egg incubator. Why? Because we were so happy with the first one, as well as we do want to get into having a little bit more eggs. Generally with 16 eggs, you can look at about 50 to 40% hatch rate depending on your eggs. And we just have our eggs from our backyard flocks, and typically we get about 50%, which means we can usually have about 8 to 9 birds. But we want to double that. So we went and we've got this other 16 egg Amazon incubator, or Safeco incubator, if that's what you know it as. And I'm just going to open it up here with you so you see exactly what comes with it. We purchased our last one about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So it could be a little different because we are hearing that not a lot of you have the manual that came with our old incubator. If that is the case, I'll leave a link in the description below at where you can go to download our manual that we have that came with our incubator, as well as I'm going to be making actually my own manual for this incubator, all my tried and true tricks that seem to work, the temperatures that I use, anything else. There's going to be photos of cute little chicks, of course, in there, but that is in the works. And I'll link you to our website, www.ploughmansbackyard.com, where you can purchase some of our merch, where you can go and download the manual that comes with this incubator, as well as when I get my own personalized manual for the incubator, I'm going to have it there and you could check it out. You could purchase it for a small fee. And let's get into opening up our incubator because it is that time of year again to start those chicks. Well, let's open the box. All right. And so this is how it comes when it comes in the mail. So this is the top or the lid of your incubator, an adapter to keep the motor going. And it comes with your little spray bottle and your water dropper. Looks exact same so far as the one that I have. The next layer, we have a tips sheet and operation instructions, but it is coming with the parameter table and what the different codes are for like the temperature, the egg turner cycle. So it's coming with basically what you need to know, but it is a lot different than what I have. It's also giving you some instructions in the back. We'll look at that a little closer once we start using it. And it comes with the tray. Then it comes with 5 rollers. They're important. You want your eggs to be able to roll and turn. And it comes with the base of the incubator. So first and foremost, when you get your incubator, it comes with the styrofoam, and we've had many people comment over the last couple years that they threw their styrofoam out. So the styrofoam is actually part of the incubator. That's part of what you're buying. So don't throw it out. It's really important to keep the heat in your incubator. So just make sure that that's still intact and you keep it. It's got the holes there in which you're going to put your water during your incubation cycle. So down at the bottom there, the yellow is what is going to be turning your rollers to turn your eggs. So just make sure when you are adding water, your water can be added in this section here and this section here, but not to be added anywhere near the wiring because it could ruin your turner and your motor, which you don't want to do. So essentially what we're going to end up doing is we're going to be connecting these 2 wires here. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put your tray in place. It's going to be above your water troughs. And we're going to add these rollers, and you can see here they got some spigots, and they are just going to be placed where the yellow thing is, just because that's what's going to turn the rollers to turn your eggs. And that's what it should look like. And then we are just going to connect this portion here to the motor itself. So we're just going to connect this part to the roller wire. And you should hear it click into place. So this is what it should look like. Right onto there like so. So now we're just going to remove this plastic. Right here, this is your air vent. And you have your candler over here. This is where you're going to put your adapter when you plug it in. All this functioning here, this is for heating up your temperature, your egg turning, anything like that. I do have a video explaining how this whole machine works and a step-by-step process on how to incubate your eggs. So when you're done watching this video of the setup, go and check out that video and you'll see how everything works, all the functions from start to finish. Incubating your eggs, we have all that for you. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to add this DC adapter. All right, now we're just going to add the adapter to turn on our incubator. This cord is a lot shorter than my old one. And that's how it goes. Basically, you're going to want this to run for about 24 to 48 hours before putting your eggs in, just to get your incubator up to temperature. But essentially, that's all that there is to putting this thing together and getting it going. So as you can see, it was really not that hard to set up. Just make sure you do not get rid of your styrofoam and make sure to keep any water clear of the motor and the wires. If you're wanting to know how to actually run this and set your programming to your temperature, how to adjust your times when your eggs are turning, I have a video on that, a step-by-step video on how to use this Amazon 16 egg incubator from start to finish with eggs. Check that out. I'll leave it at the end of this video. I'll leave a link also in the description below. I've tried to make it as simple as possible to basically teach you how to use this Amazon incubator. The next thing I'll show you that it does come with these little wires here. This is if you lose power for some reason, or if you're off grid. This is basically just to put it onto a small battery if you need to keep your incubator going for odd reasons like that. So I know a lot of people were wondering what this is, and that's what that is for. And last but not least is your water, your sprayer. So it comes with the sprayer. This is just to help with the humidity at the end. It's a mister. I find I don't use it a whole lot. And this I do use quite a bit. This is your water dropper. Basically, you're going to start off with water in your water troughs. I generally start off with about 100 milliliters. It shows you on the top of this bottle in my incubator when I started off. And this is made just to go into the side here. There's some holes and you're adding your water. And when you're adding your water, I like to add warm water. It brings up that humidity a lot faster. Just one of the things that I found that works well with this incubator. And it does come with a tip sheet. Just talks about whether you need to sterilize your eggs, the turning and drying, the alarm indicator, heating indicator light. So it's just some small tips on how to use this incubator. I did find that a little helpful. And in my other videos, you'll notice that I've actually got a booklet manual, and this one only comes with one little page, but it does come with instructions on how to set your programming in this red screen here. It's not as thorough as my booklet, but you can go to our website, www.ploughmansbackyard.com, and you can download that, as well as I'm going to be making my own individualized one just to cover some of those specific things that I found that are really work well to keep the heat in. Sometimes I found that the adjustments on this, it isn't always as high as needed, so I've had to make adjustments. So I will be adding my own adjustments when I do up my own manual for this, and you can check it out there. We'll let you know when it's out. And so this is our first use of this particular incubator, and these are my barnyard mixed eggs. We have someone who's interested in purchasing some of these chicks, and I will be putting in eventually some Chanticleer eggs, but not just yet. So I know you guys are anxious. I know you're waiting to see the Chanticleers, but it's not time yet. Soon it will happen. But if you had checked out our last video, Hannah and I had had moved around the roosters because we were having a fertility issue. So this morning we actually cracked open about 9 eggs, and it's been just about 2 weeks since we moved our roosters and our hens around to increase fertility. If you want to know a little bit about that, you can check out the video on us moving them, and that'll explain why we did it and what we did. Since then, we basically went from having about only 2 eggs being fertile out of 12 to this morning when we cracked open 9 eggs, only 3 of them were not fertile. We think we've reached where we want to be. It's higher than 50% hatch rate as long as they all take. We are just going to put these barnyard mix into the incubator. I'm not going to wash these eggs. They're pretty clean. So basically before I start collecting my eggs, I do give a little bit more protein, a little bit more mealworms, want to make sure that they're good and healthy, as well as I change out the bedding in their nesting boxes so that I have cleaner eggs. I have tried in the past, I've done it in other Amazon 16 egg incubator videos where I sterilize the eggs, and I didn't find that it made any difference at all. They were pretty much the exact same hatch rate, so I'm not going to wash these eggs. I found in the last few years it hasn't made any difference. Going back to the natural broody hen of the mother, she doesn't clean the eggs before she lays on them. Anyways, I'm just going to put these in the incubator now. I've got this heated up. Remember to heat up your incubator, have it ready for putting those eggs in. So basically, when I store my eggs for incubation, I always like to store them with the pointy end down. That being said, you have to consider in nature, mother doesn't always store her eggs pointy end down before she lays on them. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these eggs in the incubator now, and I cannot wait to see how many hatches and what they're like. It's always a fun part of seeing what comes out. Now, it's normal to get about 40% of them being roosters. That's completely normal. Make sure that you plan for those roosters ahead of time because you're not going to want to have a lot of roosters compared to hens. You need to have more hens than roosters. Also, when you're doing your eggs for your incubator, you want to choose the best eggs that you have. So make sure that there's no slight cracking, any discoloration that you're unsure of that could mean that the egg is not good. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but this egg actually had a little bit of a calcium deposit. It was a bit of a thicker piece. And when I went to go put it into the incubator, it fell off and it's left a clear spot. So I'm not going to use this egg because there's no actual hard shell on the egg. I've started a little bit later this year, but that's okay. You don't need to start when everybody else is doing it. Basically, I have 3 weeks, and now that I know where I'm going to be putting them, you basically want to have something ready before you're starting your chicks and you're going to have your chicks outside. Don't wait till the last minute and start preparing. The chicks are here. Where am I going to put them? So make sure you have everything in order. Just because everyone else is starting them at a certain time doesn't mean you have to. I'm actually going to take you through the very beginning steps of kind of getting this incubator set up, and we're going to go through the whole 21 days, and I'm going to show you how to use this Amazon 16 egg incubator. So when getting your incubator, you should have a manual that comes with it, a tips paper. It comes also with a squirt bottle, which I don't really use it that often. I find we have enough humidity around here that just using this is sufficient enough. I have a harder time actually keeping the humidity levels down in this incubator. So I use the bottle more than I do use the sprayer, the spritzer. This bottle, like I said, it comes with, I don't know if it's milliliters, but it comes in 20, 60, and 100. I don't know if you can see on there, there's measurements there on the side. So when I start my incubator, I usually put anywhere from the 20, I think it's 20 is here, to 40. I put that in one section on the side, and that seems to be enough for at least about 3 days, and then I'll add a little bit more. I add pretty much a full bottle around the 18th day, 19th day, when it's lockdown day. That's when you want your humidity levels high. Another thing that you want to make sure that you do when starting up your incubator is you need the styrofoam on. We've had people say that they have accidentally thrown out the styrofoam, or they weren't sure that it actually came with the incubator or part of the packaging. It definitely is part of the incubator. We found that when we removed the styrofoam, our temperature decreased quite a bit. It holds in a lot of that heat, and the eggs need that heat for at least, the first 18 days. The temperature is really important to keep those eggs nice and warm. So the first thing you want to do when setting up your incubator is that you want it to run for a minimum of 24 hours. And that is basically just to get the temperature stabilized so that when you put your eggs in, it's already warm in there and it's not going to fluctuate a lot by adding your eggs, because your eggs are not going to be the temperature that it is in the incubator, and it's going to change the temperature a little bit in there. So making sure that's heated up is going to help stabilize that temperature a little bit quicker. I have found with trialing out the first few times we used this incubator that the incubator itself isn't necessarily hot enough, like warm enough on the inside. So the manual says to put it at 38 degrees Celsius. That's what the temperature reads on this. It's in Celsius. We found that when you measure the temperature on the inside of the incubator, it actually is more around the 37 mark. So I like to keep this incubator, at least ours, around the 38.3, and it fluctuates between 38.3 and 38.0, which on the inside it's reading closer to 38 and 37.9. Adjust your temperature to what you see fit. You can use another measuring device by putting a thermostat in the incubator so that you can kind of figure out how to balance your temperature. A lot of people have said that their temperature is off quite a bit, so there are ways at working around that. Just turn your temperature up a little bit. Maybe make sure, sometimes I put a towel over a good portion of the incubator. Obviously not enough to block the holes on the side where we add the water, and we'll get to that in a moment. Or not blocking this vent on top here because we do need to open it now and then. So sometimes just keeping a towel or a blanket around that will also help keep some of that heat in and keep the temperature up. But I have found that around 38.3, setting it for that has been really good, and we've had really good outcomes with our hatchings with it. The beginning stages around day 1 to day 18, you want the humidity level around 60%. A lot of people wonder, how do we measure the humidity level? Because there is no humidity reader on this incubator. It just comes with the thermostat for the temperature. So you can buy like, I think it's called a hygrometer, and it can read the humidity levels. So what I have done is I came across these humidity packs, and what they do is they actually regulate temperatures. And the reason why I got this, I wasn't able to get a hygrometer at the time when we were looking last year, but I came across these and I got a package of them. I think there's about 10 in a pack. And what I do with these, because it reads 62 and I want the humidity to be around 60, this actually helps to decrease my humidity levels in the incubator. That being said, you do not need to have this. And I just add this from days 1 to 18. Take it out when I take my rollers out when it's lockdown time. And then I increase my humidity levels just by adding a full bottle of this water. Now, when you're adding water to your incubator, I like to add warm water. Between days 1 and 18, I might add about 20 to 40, I think it's milliliters of water once every 3 days. Now, you need to check and see how the humidity level is. If you find that there's a little bit too much moisture and fogging up in there, it means your humidity level is high. And a way to get rid of some of that humidity level is also opening up this vent, and that's just going to allow the humidity to escape. Humidity levels in your incubator can change depending on your location. We have quite a bit of humidity levels here where we live. So our humidity level is high already, like in the atmosphere. So it's going to be high in the incubator as well. Now, if you live in like a lower humidity level area, you can actually do something called like a dry hatch, which means you don't need to add water to your incubator until it's time to lock down during the hatching stages. They definitely need water during that time. It helps soften that shell so that they can break through easily. But we're doing a wet hatch, which means I'm adding water to the bottom of my incubator, but I don't need to add very much because the humidity level is already somewhat high. This incubator also comes with rollers. I'm going to show you in a minute on the inside because I have started my eggs about 3 days ago, so I'm going to minimize opening this up just yet. It has a little mesh tray that is there. So when we take the rollers out, when the chicks hatch, they have a little cage that they go on. Now I find that the mesh tray has a little bit too large of holes. And I just want to decrease my chances of having the chicks have spayed legs. So what I do just to help it along is I've been out and I've got this from the dollar store. And it's just like a little sticky tray mat. It goes, you know, maybe in your kitchen cupboards to prevent slipping. And it's just enough. We haven't had any problems with our chickens' legs or feet. We found this to be really good. It's non-slip, very little. And we have found this very helpful for the first day or two when the chicks hatch. Someone has asked why I take the rollers out and not leave them. That is because when they're hatching, there's a lot of eggshells in there. There's a lot of them sometimes hatching at the same time, and those rollers just have them slipping around, and I really just want to prevent them from getting injured at all. You'll notice on the side here, there's some little holes here, and that is actually where I add the water. There's some little troughs in there that there's actually two sections. One is a larger spot and one is a smaller spot. I tend to use the larger one for most of the time, and I add the water in there, the warm water in through these little holes, and I do that about every 3 days. Now you may wonder why I have this duct tape on here and why it's cut. I have found that it's quite handy to have, and I'll show you. Don't want to move these eggs around too much, but it just allows me to open up so that I can check in and check on my eggs, and I can monitor how the eggs are, if there's any hatching going on. Our first time doing the incubation, I wasn't sure if the eggs were actually turning with the automatic egg turner. So it was a nice way that I could open up a little spot and just see the eggs roll. And how I managed to do that was I just put a little mark on one of the eggs by the side where I had cut the styrofoam, and I could see that different times when I'd look in, that little mark on that egg was in different spots, so I knew that the rollers were working. It is hard to see and it's very slow, but it does actually work. The rollers do work. Now I'll show you how to set up your incubator with the settings manual on here. So as you can see, this little spot here, this is for candling. It's a little light. You can see it right there. We have used it. It does work, but it is hard to see. And I've had other people have better success with different type of candlers, but it is here. It's part of the incubator, and we were able to see quite a bit. It does have to be pretty dark, so make sure all your lights and stuff are off. But again, if you stick around for the video, we are going to show you how everything works. And around day 5 to 10, we will be candling, and we're going to show you how that works too. For setting up your temperature, it's simple. You press the set button. You can move your temperature up, or you can move it down by the plus minus section. Like I said, for the first 1 to 7 days, I like to keep it around 38.3. It seems to work well for us with that temperature. Another thing is this incubator comes factory preset to specific settings, and I'm just going to show you. I found that I've used the settings that come with the incubator and I haven't had a problem with it. In the manual, see here on this page, it'll go over some of those factory pre-settings and how to do it and how to set up. So it says here that the egg setting cycle is the F1 and the egg turning cycle is F2. So I'm just going to show you how to do that just to get an idea of how to use these buttons on the front. All right, so we're just going to go to the egg setting cycle, and we're just going to hold that set button down. And now we're going to try and find the F1 button. There's the F1. We're going to press set again, and it says 90. So this is how often your eggs are going to turn. So every 90 minutes, it's factory preset to turn your eggs every 90 minutes. Now we're going to check out the egg turning time, and we're going to press that set button and hold again, and we're going to look for that F2 right there, and we're going to press hold again, and it says 200. So this means that every 90 minutes these eggs are going to roll for 200 seconds at a time. Some people may say that every 90 minutes is a bit too much. That works out to being 16 times these eggs are turned a day. So you can adjust that by changing with your manual setting here. I didn't do that. We've had good hatch rates, so I'm not gonna bother changing something that's working, but you can go ahead. If you feel it's too much, you do have the option to change that there. So another thing you can do to get the eggs to turn manually is you press and hold the both plus and minus sign. And that right light here is showing you that the eggs are now turning, and I'm doing it manually. So you can have it set that you can go and just turn them how often you want and when you want to, instead of just the preset. So these two bright lights are letting you know that 1, the egg is turning, and 2, the heat element is on and heating up the incubator again. Now, if you didn't get one of these manuals in with your incubator, which we've had a lot of people reaching out to us asking for the manual because they didn't get one or they got it in a different language, we do have an English copy here. And if you do not have one and would like to get a copy of the manual, just leave a comment down below and let us know, and we can try and get you a PDF version of this manual and send it to you. So what it does come with, it tells you how to use those manual settings that you can change. So it also does come with these parameter tables, which gives good detail on how to keep your temperature at certain days. So I'm doing chickens. So like I said, days 1 to 7, I'm having it set for about 38, 38.3. Days 8 to 13, I have it set at about 38.0. 14 to 18, 37.9, and day 19 and later, 37.6. It also tells you what the humidity parameters should be during those days, how often you should be spraying and adding water, and when you should stop turning your eggs. So this is actually a really good thing to have. Like I said, leave a comment down below and we'll try and get you a copy of this as quick as we can. Now I'll just show you what's going on inside. Like I said, we have added our 16 eggs to this incubator. One thing is with this incubator, you don't want to open the lid very often. So I like to not open it for at least 5 days to keep the heat in there. As you can see, there's quite a bit of eggs in there. They do seem to be rolling just fine. Now that beeping just lets you know that your temperature went down and you need to increase it back up because you have a loss of heat in the incubator. Many people have commented before on what to do and how to shut off that beeper, because in my last video on my how to use an Amazon 16 egg incubator, I had that beeping for quite a bit of the time, and I do apologize, but I'll show you just how to do that. We'll get it going again. And it's really simple. All you need to do is press that minus button. Another thing you're going to get when you get your incubator are this extra cord. Kind of got like these little alligator claw thingy-majigs. Anyways, people have been asking what this is for, and this is actually for if you lose power anytime during your incubation, you're not going to have heat and you're going to actually ruin your hatch. So they actually include this in your incubator. If you lose power, you would just disconnect your AC adapter and you would add this in place of it. So if you need to attach this to something, it can actually be attached to somehow to a solar panel if you are off grid, or if you have lost power, just have these little clamps go onto a nice little maybe 12-volt battery, maybe an ATV battery. These are just come in handy. If you lose power, you're going to wreck your hatch. So make sure that you have something else on hand in case that happens. So I've got my water here. Again, I'll just show you if you can see it or not. There's a 20 mark there, there's a 40, and it goes up to the 60 and 100. I'm just going to add about 20 milliliters of water into this incubator, and I do that just through this little hole here. And again, this is warm tap water that I'm adding. During lockdown time, days 18 and after, I'm adding a whole bottle multiple times a day. So it's been about 3 days, so I thought I should add it a little bit more water because we are wet hatching. Well, it's day 10 now, and we are going to be candling these eggs. So one reason why you want to do this is so that you can see how the development is going. And basically today, we should definitely be seeing veining, which we did see when we candled some on day 5. But day 10, you should actually start seeing the embryo, the eyes should be developed. You'll see a dark black dot. and that is a good indication that there's a lot of growth there. So if there's any eggs in there that don't have any veining, no black dots, we're just gonna discard those and take those out. There's no need to have them in here, and it's really fun to do. So let's get to candling these eggs. Well, I just pressed this little light bulb setting here, and it brought on the candler. So as you can see here, the candler does work well on this incubator, but for the sake of the video and so that you can see what is going on inside the egg, we're going to switch over to our iPhone flashlight. So there is a little chick in there. It's moving around on its own. It's really cool. I can't quite tell where the eye is, but the eye at this point would be a very black dot, which it very well could be this here, but the chick is quite developed. It's just really small at this point. And we've got the air sac down at the bottom where the bright red is. Oh, did you see that? So there's definitely a chick in here. You can see the large vein there. There's the air sac down here. And this, I believe, would be the eye. Lots and lots of movement in here. Well, we have reached day 19, and you know what that means? It is lockdown day, which means that we need to take the eggs out, get the rollers out of the machine, and lock it down for 3 to 4 days. Till hatch should be about 21 days, give or take. Sometimes I've had them hatch right on day 19, and other days I've had them hatch on day 22. So now I'm just going to go through how we prepare to lockdown, which is really very simple. It takes a few minutes. So I'm going to begin by removing the eggs. Now we have a lot less eggs in here than when we started, and that's because we did some candling. We remove the eggs as we go. Now we're just going to remove the rollers. Now I've had people ask, why do I remove the rollers? For me, it's just easier to remove the rollers, but you can, by using the manual, you can go into the settings and actually stop the rollers from moving. In my experience though, removing the rollers is a good idea because you don't really want the chicks hatching from the eggs onto these rollers and getting things like spade legs or any issues, because they're really delicate when they first come out. So why have the hindrance of having these in? The other thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to remove this, and I've got my humidity pack. I'm removing that now. So this little tray that you see in your incubator that comes with the incubator, I don't really like the size of the holes, mainly because the chicks are so delicate and small when they come out that I'm just afraid of their feet getting caught or something. I want to prevent any injuries as possible. You don't have to do this, but what I like to do is just take one of those non-slip mats. You can get them at the dollar store, just about any home hardware store, and they're more for your cupboards and plates that they don't slip around. And I'm just going to cut this to size. Just about the same size as this, maybe a little bit smaller, and I'm going to put the tray and this on top. Well, I've just cut this non-slip mat, and I'm just going to put it directly on this, and as you can see, I did do it a little bit smaller than the actual tray, and we're just going to insert this now into the incubator. Next, we're going to put the eggs back into the incubator. So we have 10 eggs still in the incubator. So the next thing we want to do is we want to keep track of the humidity level inside this incubator. Up till now, we've kept the humidity at about 60%, which is great. And during the last 3 to 4 days of incubation, you want the humidity level to be around 70%. If it goes in between 70 and 80, that's fine, but we just need a higher humidity level reading during these last few days of incubation. So now I'm just going to add the hygrometer into the incubator, and all I've done here is I've just cut a little slit here in the styrofoam, put a little piece of duct tape, and that's just so I can see what's going on with the hygrometer here. I have removed the whole styrofoam before in the past, just during this lockdown phase. By doing that, it actually reduced the temperature of the incubator quite significantly, and I could not get the temperature back to where it needed to be. So it is very important to keep the styrofoam on during this part of the incubation. However, during the hatching days, we did end up removing this styrofoam just during the day when they were all hatching, and they seemed to do just fine. But like I said, from day 19 to 21, we're going to keep this on, and I'm going to put this hygrometer right here so that I can monitor the humidity level inside the machine. As you can see, we have the hygrometer right here, and I can easily see the percentage of humidity level inside the incubator. Now what I'm going to do is add warm water, and I'm just going to put it into both spots because we need the humidity level to increase at least by 10%. So now we just want to reduce our temperature to 37.6. Set. And this is going to be the remaining temperature until the hatching of the eggs. So one of the reasons why we want to increase our humidity level during this part of the incubation is because we're trying to help the eggs to be prepared for hatching. So having a little bit higher of humidity levels is going to add a little bit more moisture into the air and soften those eggs. I have heard of people lifting the lid and spraying inside the machine to add humidity. I do not recommend doing that. It does increase the humidity level. And the reason why I do not recommend doing that is because if you do have a chick that is, pecking its way through maybe a little hole or maybe even a larger hole, by spraying and accidentally spraying inside that egg, you could actually drown that chick. So having a good humidity level is important, and you don't want to spray on the eggs. So adding the warm water into the sides of the machines where the hole is here is your best way to increase the humidity level. Another thing, if you're finding that you have too much humidity and you want to release some, you can just open up this vent and allow some of that moisture to release. So it is recommended to open this vent about 4 times a day for about 15 minutes at a time. So another reason why keeping the humidity level up during this phase of incubation is because they can start to hatch and they could actually become almost like a vacuum sealed chick. So what will happen if there's not enough moisture, if it's lower than 70, these chicks could start pecking through, and the little membrane or sac that they need to break through will actually dehydrate and cause them not to hatch and die also. So keeping and maintaining that 70% or a little bit higher is really important. Well, we've ended up bypassing even the hatch day. So these birds hatched, I want to say about a week ago, and they're doing really, really well. As you can see, this little guy is quite happy. I'm pretty sure we have a rooster here. Today we're going to be talking about 5 reasons why your eggs didn't hatch. Recently, we actually put about 33 eggs in our incubator. We have 2 incubators now. Surprisingly, we only hatched out, we have 4 baby chicks. Now, normally we get a good hatch rate, but there are times when hatch rates don't always go according to plan. And that's exactly what happened. So out of 33, we got 4 chicks, which we're still really happy we've got 4, but a little disappointed that we didn't get more. We had plans for those 33, that we had some people that were wanting some baby, like day-old chicks from us. So it was a little disappointing in that way for them as well. These guys are about, I want to say about 2 weeks old now, so they're just getting their feathers on. But we were wondering, because in the past years we've had such good success rate, so I'm just going to cover some basic reasons on why your eggs didn't hatch into chicks, because a lot of people are commenting on some of our videos, that their eggs didn't hatch, or they had fully developed chickens but they didn't crack through the egg. So we're going to cover 5 reasons on why that might be happening, and it's a good way for you to find out like what stage and what step something went wrong with your incubator. Or maybe it's not your incubator, but maybe it's your chickens. One of the first reasons why your eggs may not have hatched is because of infertile eggs. So basically you can have too many roosters, too few roosters, infertile roosters, old roosters, sterile roosters, not enough nutrition in your flock. Roosters that fight with each other instead of mating, we actually experienced that this spring, and we had to take some of our roosters and separate them and make some mini flocks so that there was more mating going on so that we could hatch our eggs instead of the roosters fighting just amongst themselves. Because oftentimes they can get very territorial if they don't have enough hens for each other. And then what happens is that you end up with infertile eggs because there's no mating going on and they're preoccupied fighting with each other. The number 2 reason why your eggs may not be hatching is that there's no sign of life when you're candling. Candling is a really important way to check the progress of your eggs during incubation. And if you find within the first week of incubation that there's no signs of life, it could mean that your flock have improper nutrition or overheating your temperature, which means that your temperature within your incubator has been too high. The other reason for no sign of life could be from the fact that there is inbreeding going on in your chickens. I know that's something that is not talked about a lot, and something that I don't fully understand, but I do know some basics. So you don't want a lot of inbreeding going on in your flock, which can happen with like a barnyard mix like I have, is you don't want the brothers and sisters to be mating with each other. You can breed back a daughter back to the father if you have to, but basically bringing in new blood into your flock. So if you have a certain type of breed of chicken that you're wanting to keep up and you've been breeding with the one rooster for a while like we have, bringing in new blood from maybe somebody you know or a farmer or somewhere that has the same type of rooster if you really like your rooster, bringing in a new rooster to your flock every couple years is a really good idea to prevent the inbreeding. The other thing is if you have a setup where you can have multiple pens and multiple coops, is to alternate switching out your roosters between your flocks, which means that every few years you move one rooster into another pen and vice versa and move that rooster in with the other ones. Again, keeping track of the daughters and the brothers and sisters. So that could be a reason why your eggs are a bit infertile. The third reason of why your chicks have not hatched could be the fact that you may have a rotten egg in your incubator. Now you're wondering, how did that get there? Or the fact that you have checked your incubator and you know there's a rotten egg because it is stinky. So the reason why you might have a rotten egg is, again, the temperature and humidity has been off on your incubator in your incubating time. It could be your temperature's too high or your temperature's too low. The other reason is leaving your eggs too long before you incubate them. Say you have a small flock, you might only get 3 eggs a day, and you're collecting your eggs and you want to fill like your 20 egg incubator, your 30 egg incubator. Those eggs that you gathered previous and you've saved up to get your 20 or 30 eggs, those beginning eggs are probably going to turn out to be rotten eggs because you want to use your eggs within 7 days of them being laid from your hen. So you don't want to keep continuing to store your eggs for a long period of time and then incubating them. You have a higher percentage of a hatch rate if you incubate the eggs the day they're hatched. Now that being said, you can still hatch a 5-day-old egg that's been laid, but to increase your hatch rate, definitely do the best you can to use the freshest eggs possible. The other reason why you could have a rotten egg could be your ventilation in your incubator. So one reason is eggs are very porous. The shells of eggs are very porous, which means even though your eggs are shut in the incubator, your poor chicks still need oxygen, and they're able to get oxygen through the porous shells that they have. Just check your ventilation. Most incubators have a hole for oxygen. Others have a little door like ours do where you can open it up for 10 to 15 minutes a day. The other reason for a rotten egg in your incubator could be that there is improper turning of your eggs. So if you have an automatic egg turner like we do, it could be that your egg turner is broken, something in the mechanism, or the fact maybe you have to turn your eggs yourself, which I've also done in the past. And you want to make sure that you're not just turning those eggs once a day, but possibly turning them anywhere between 3 and 4 times a day. Because when those eggs are turning, they could get stagnant and they need to be turned for proper development of the chick inside the egg. So the fourth reason why your eggs did not hatch could be that perhaps you've gotten to your 21 days and you've noticed that your chickens did not hatch, they did not peep through the shell, but for some reason the chick is fully developed but did not hatch. The reason for that is that your humidity level was too low at lockdown stage. So around day 18, when you're locking down your incubator, that is a time when it needs to be at a high humidity level to prepare the membrane and the eggshell to soften it up so that your chick can hatch through the egg. So what happens is sometimes if your chicks don't peep through, the egg has not become soft enough and your humidity level was too low in your incubator during the lockdown stage of your incubation, possibly around the 18th day. So the fifth reason why your chick did not hatch is similar to the fourth reason. But in this case, instead of the no pipping, there was pipping in the fifth stage. So this is where your chick had tried to get through, and you may see a little hole with a little beak peeping through, and it didn't end up finishing. It couldn't get out of the egg. And when you've checked this egg and you've checked your chick, it's fully developed, but the membrane is so dry that the chick cannot get out. Oftentimes, this is a stage where I try and help a little bit. Some chicks get out. I have successfully hatched out 3 chicks that remained living over the course of the last few years at this stage where they have a hard time getting through. And this is because the humidity level is too low on the day of hatching. So the difference is basically where they're almost vacuum sealed in and there's no moisture, and sometimes the chicks can try to get out, but there's shell stuck to their little fur or little feathers. And what happened is that there was not enough moisture on day 21 for that chick to get out easily. So at this point, this is a stage where you can help them, but you gotta be really gentle and you gotta take your time. You can't just rip them open and have the chick out. It needs time to strengthen itself to get out of the egg. But there definitely needs to be a high humidity level on the day of hatch. So the shrink wrap chick at this stage that's peeping through your egg and it didn't successfully get out and died is because your humidity level was too low on day 21. So those are the reasons, just a few actually, there's lots more reasons, but those are just the common few of reasons why your chicks did not hatch. So I would suggest as a recommendation is to make sure that you're candling your eggs. I generally like to candle my eggs around day 5 or day 6. Then around day 9 or 10, and then again at lockdown day. So around 18, when I'm gonna take out the rollers and lock down my incubator is the last time I candle my eggs. The reason for this is you're getting each of those steps in the progress of your eggs and you're seeing where something may be going wrong. So if you've candled your eggs around day 5 or day 6 and you notice that there's no growth, there's no veining in your eggs, it could be that your temperature in your incubator is too high, or it could be a fertility issue. Then again, if you're checking everything is normal, good and fine, and you're checking on day 10, and then there's development, but it's stopped, you know it's your incubator and not your fertility rate. And then you can go back and see where you went wrong during that 5-day period, and you can see where you went wrong. Maybe the humidity level was too high, maybe your temperature was too high or too low. And then maybe you got to day 10 and there was proper development. And then when you checked at day 18 on lockdown day, again, maybe there was no movement in your egg, because you should see a lot of movement in your egg by then. You should also see the air sac at the bottom of the egg. And if you're not seeing that, you know then from day 10 to day 18, something went wrong. Again, another time to check maybe something went wrong with the incubator, maybe something was wrong with the turners. But those periods, those last two sections are not an indication of infertility issues, but it's an indication on how the process of your temperature and humidity went. So I hope this video has helped you just kind of figure out what has went wrong with your hatching. Again, we've been doing really great with our hatch rates here at Ploughman's Backyard for the last few years, but for some reason this year we didn't have such great success. And I'm here to share with you that not every year is going to be successful. Not every year is going to be the same, but I want to encourage you to keep going and keep trying. Just because something fails one time or one year doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But we even make mistakes here, and sometimes we get things wrong, and sometimes the machines stop working. It's just the way that life goes. But I hope that this has helped you and encouraged you to know that you're not alone, that even me here make mistakes too and don't always have the best success.